Normally, mechs become less effective the closer they are to the enemy and need to keep a healthy distance. Human mechs are the exact opposite and are notorious for blitzkrieging everything. Mechs. Tanks with legs. Really all they are. Most sentients modeled them after themselves, bipedal, quadruped, whatever. Some had seen others before developing their own and thus copied another's base model. Some originally designed them in a way they felt was more optimal, even if it meant putting aside their pride and not making it look just like them. But most modeled them after themselves. Giant us. But really before that they were just armor with legs. Armor modeled after living creatures, and theoretically able to go anywhere they could, or do anything they could, just while being simultaneously larger, and a weapon. But since they were still tanks, they were still considered siege weapons. Weapons built on board, weapons built separate and able to be held, more variety and adaptability. But let's be honest, it had been eons since war had proven range over melee. Even the most predator-evolved sentients with claws, carapace, teeth, what have you had evolved the use of tools, and learned that if you beat your enemy before they get close, then it doesn't matter how deadly they are up close. The humans had a slightly different notion. Oh, they still wielded ranged weapons and fought at a distance, and they seemed to prefer it the same as every other species. But they were the first ones that started building mechs suitable for melee. The enemy cannot push a button if you disable his hand. A human said it once. It sounded like a joke. The other humans reacted like it was a joke. All the other sentients took it as a joke. It would become a famous phrase concerning human warfare. Most mechs were fine-tuned for precision, snipers, long distance with mass drivers or mortars or whatever arms the battle called for. The human mechs seemed, well, clunky in comparison. They certainly didn't aim as well, but they compensated. They wouldn't stop moving. Modeled, like most other mechs, after themselves, they made them to move and fire, get cover, move and fire again. They'd use non-precision weaponry. Aiming precisely didn't matter so much at that point. They weren't even aiming to destroy. It was all just suppressing fire. They couldn't get a kill shot, but their enemy didn't have the luxury to aim well enough to get one in return. First time these mechs were used in a large engagement, it was seen as a joke yet again. A platoon of resource-expensive armor running across the battlefield, firing wildly, seemingly blindly, up till suddenly they were within punching distance. It was all over pretty quickly after that. You can't pull a trigger if you don't have hand. That applies to mechs as well. Ones without hands, with traditional weapons just built into the chassis, they'd cut or rip those right off as well. Then just ignore them. Now at these top-of-the-line walking armors were just big expensive suits that couldn't do a single thing on the battlefield, and then they'd move to the next one. One species finally tried to adapt, used a strategy involving their own suppressive fire, kept them from dashing into melee range. That ended worse. Didn't seem to be at first. Human mechs were certainly kept at bay, but turns out they put too much attention at stopping the mechs. Human ground troops had been using the same strategy the whole time, and the mechs merely acted as a distraction. All the other mechs, designed for ranged precision, weren't even quick enough to deal with human ground troops once they reached punching distance. They got close enough and just started disabling the enemy mechs, like a swarm of insects with deadly poisonous bites. Scientists and philosophers alike would question it for ages. The humans didn't even evolve claws, carapace, etc. Why did they, of all creatures, think to bring the fight up close and personal? Apparently the humans didn't have a good answer for that either. It just seemed the natural solution to them. Sometimes it's harder to hit a target up close, especially if you're a little preoccupied with the axe he's swinging at you.